All right. Sweet. Says we're live. Okay. Hi, anybody who's watching this in the future. Hope you're doing awesome. My name is Jordan Hardgrave, as you know from the course, and this live Q&A is going to be all about answering your specific questions for your situation related to anxiety, trauma, dissociation, depression, stuff like that. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I am a bit tired, simply because for like the last week straight, I've been staying up until, oh goodness, like 4 or 5 in the morning. And I'm working on a new outline for a re-record of the Done with Depersonalization course, which I'm so excited about. I've condensed everything into actually 4 pillars instead of 10. And I go a lot more in depth on certain topics. I also leave out things that are in there right now that are helpful but aren't absolutely crucial. And I get to the point even more. And I'm pretty excited about that. But I'm wanting to do it right so that I'd never have to record this again, or I don't have to record it for several years to come. Because this will be my 3rd re record. And I just re recorded I've re-recorded it because I've learned so much, but I feel like now I've kind of got anxiety, trauma, and depersonalization, derealization recovery pretty much down to a science. I'm not saying that that makes it easy. It does take effort and discipline, but I believe that I can present and I will present recovery in this new course in literally the most simplistic way possible. I'm going to give you exactly what you need to know, exactly what you need to do, and it's so simple, and I can't wait. But it's hard to even sleep at night because I'm like, I want this to be done. But anyway, I've just been kind of bootstrapping it, and probably spending about 14 to 15 hours a day working on this outline, so that way I can just record it. My goal is next week to record it, and then maybe a week after that have it uploaded. So we will shoot for that goal. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and send out uh, this link here. I want to make sure that we don't run into the problem that we had last time, which is nobody could. I'm going to put the link. Put the link in several places so people have multiple options to click on it. Because last time it messed up. So we good? Okay. Yeah, I probably only got about 4 or 5 hours of sleep. So if I kind of come off as a little bit groggy, and I've done one video for a person today. It was like a 45-minute video about trauma. I also had about an hour phone conversation with a friend who needed some marriage advice. So it's been I've given out a lot today. So yeah, if I seem a little drained, that's why. But I'm gonna do my best to uh, be optimistic and yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm gonna send. Okay. It is scheduled to send. It's scheduled to send. Okay. So that's good. I will know if it worked because people will start clicking it. Live chat. Okay. All right. Now we wait. It's like fishing. Are any fish going to show up? Oh man. And also I did like 50 push-ups yesterday. I'm going to start doing 50 push-ups a day or maybe more. So my muscles hurt. I know I kind of sound whiny, but it's awesome. It's a It's an honor and joy to get to help people for a living, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's a heck of a lot better than working at the Walmart distribution center like I was a little over a year ago. Then before that, I was working at a call center where I was there like 5 years, I think, and taking calls, angry customers all the time. Oh, it was not fun. Like, and I didn't understand self-regulation. I didn't understand any of this stuff. So like I was just chronically anxious all the time. So I have live chat set up on my course website, and I got a message, and the person said, "The beard is so magical. I too have a beard." And I was like, "Who is this person sending me this?" And then it's my friend Trey Jones, the YouTuber. Oh, that's funny. So funny, man. Okay, let's see here. Yay, there's a person. What is up, my friend? Say hi. Tell me where you're watching from, and ask any questions that you have, and I will be more than happy to answer them for you in the most powerful, best way that I am able to. Okay, the person left. Okay. Hi. What is up? Ask any questions. Say hi. Tell me where you're watching from. I'm here for you, my friends. Faisal, what is up, Faisal? I just answered your question on the Q&A. I think it was this morning or on the forum. I hope you were helped by that answer. And if you need to elaborate more on anything, this is the place to do it, guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome all to the Lair of Jordan, my humble abode, which that's like a baby gate. So that way people don't, there's like a really steep stairs that goes like straight, pretty much straight down. And what's up, Jared Fawcett? So good to see you, Jared. Woo! Pound it, pound it. Yep, put your fist up, put it up. Yeah, there you go, man. I saw you doing that. But anyway, guys, welcome. I love you. You're amazing. I hope you're doing awesome, guys. I'm here for you to hang out, to ask questions, to crack jokes. I hoped that by announcing this a little bit in advance that we'd have more of kind of a showing, and it seems like there's already more people than last time, so that's awesome. But guys, I just really want to give you my time in helping your recovery. So type out your questions, just say hi, tell me where you're watching from, and I'm going to answer whatever you have to say. Even if it's like marriage advice or relationship advice, like I just spent an hour helping a friend save his marriage this morning. I actually have learned quite a bit about relationships. As I'm getting too buff. No, I'm just kidding. What is up, Marcia? So good to see you. I've been enjoying your questions on the forum. You ask very, very good questions, and I hope your situation is getting a lot better. Ask any questions, Marcia, on here, or just whatever you want to ask. Kennedy Williams, what's up, Kennedy? So good to see you from Tennessee. All right, I went to Nashville, Tennessee, whenever I was in band in high school, and we had this tiny little bitty band, but yet somehow we got to play in like some parade that they were having. What's up, Isaac Hernandez? So good to see you. What's up, Roxana Dor Dorotiak? Dorotiak? Am I saying that right? If I am, I get $5. But anyway, yeah. So like, I played the snare drum in band, and like there was like maybe 20 of us, but we got invited to like play in Nashville at this big parade thing, and it was really cool seeing Nashville, and it's like a music city and stuff. I remember there's all these museums and stuff. But anyway, so good to see you, Kennedy. Uh, not today. What's up? Not today. It is today though, or is it? Is it not? Mm, mm. No, wasn't that funny? Roxana, what's up? Good to see you. Emma Gor Gornichek. Good to see you. Okay. Ask your question, guys, and I'll just go one by one. Just tell me where you're watching from. Just and wait, somebody had a beard comment. Marcy, I have to comment on that. You said I'll be in the car, might lose connection. Love your beard. I'm in San Francisco. Oscar, awesome. San Francisco. It's there's some sort of song I can't remember, but anyway, I'm glad you enjoy the beard. You know, it's a lot of work actually, but it's worth it. It's awesome. I didn't even know I could grow one. Okay, I'm going to start with the questions. Faisal, basically, I've been feeling much better. Yay! Celebration! Like yesterday, I went out with my mate and I didn't feel any symptoms or feelings because I've been self regulating, but I was wondering if I'll have to self regulate all my life. Fantastic, beautiful question. I love that because it's a really cool opportunity to bring some education about self regulation. So, as you guys know from the course, from the Calm Pillar, self regulation is the ability to calm yourself as you're living life when you notice muscular constriction and then shift your focus. So, you do a quick body scan, you release any tension, and then you shift your focus to something healthy. And his question is, are we going to have to do that for the rest of our life? And the answer is yes. The reason why it's yes is because I'm just going to assume that you probably have um, at least several months, probably several years of walking around in a anxious state or a traumatized state. And whenever you're going through seasons of intense stress, your threat perception system in your brain, which is your anterior cingulate, shuts off. And whenever it shuts off, you start perceiving threat based upon what happened in the past. If anything looks, smells, tastes, feels similar to something that was dangerous or painful in the past, you'll instantly and instinctually start to tense your muscles. And what happens is we start to get tens of thousands of triggers because we're walking around stressed out all the time. And we start to sensitize ourselves to these triggers, which are represented by sensory input, usually, or people or things in our environment that trigger our body to constrict. So, we're going to have to go through the process of desensitizing ourselves, which means that whenever we notice this muscle constriction, even if we don't know what the trigger is or what's causing us to constrict our muscles, we have to continually release that tension and then shift our focus. And slowly but surely, we're going to start to desensitize ourselves, meaning that there will be less and less muscle constriction. However, there are going to be some things that we have so much painful past learning history with that it would take us 10 lifetimes to desensitize ourselves to the point that we had no muscular constriction whatsoever. So, because of that, a lot of your triggers, once you start self regulating like 200 times a day, poof, they're just going to go away. You're going to experience either such a small level of muscle constriction or no muscle constriction to the point that it won't produce symptoms of stress or dissociation if you don't release that tension. So that's going to be a lot of triggers. But for some triggers, you're just going to continue to constrict your body for the rest of your life, and you're not going to be able to desensitize yourself to the point that there's not muscular constriction. Now, here's a very important thing to point out. A trigger doesn't mean that you're becoming symptomatic. It doesn't mean that your sympathetic nervous system activates and you start experiencing stress and then ultimately dissociation. A trigger simply means your muscles are constricting. And between trigger and, or I should say, between muscular constriction and becoming symptomatic, there's a little space. All right. So we notice that our muscles are constricted, and then there's this space of time that we have the opportunity to respond by releasing that constriction and changing our focus. If we don't shift our physiology and shift our focus, then we will start to become symptomatic. The gas pedal of our sympathetic nervous system will start getting pressed down. And if it gets pedal to the metal, that's dissociation. That's when we start to dissociate. So if we can release that tension and then shift our focus to something healthy, we can actually interrupt this false perceived threat process that's happening. So to answer your question, you will have to self-regulate less the more that you do it. Okay, I self-regulate, I don't know, 100 times a day, depending on if I'm talking about symptoms and stuff, because I've got a lot of guys. I spent 10 years in severe generalized anxiety disorder. I spent 5 years in severe post-traumatic stress disorder and depression. I spent 2 years with DPDR disorder. I had all kinds of phobias, and just talking about those things causes muscular constriction sometimes. But let's say I'm not talking about symptoms, I'm just going throughout my day, I still have to self regulate. And I don't know what's causing me to trigger muscle constriction. And I don't have to know. I just have to release that tension and then shift my focus when it happens in order to interrupt this process and live free of stress so that I don't enter what's called sympathetic dominance, which is where the gas pedal of our sympathetic nervous system, stress symptoms, are dominating our life. If you're constantly walking around dissociated, you're in sympathetic dominance, meaning that you are not doing anything to interrupt these false alarms. Again, you're perceiving threat in the present because things sensorially are similar to things that happened in the past. And the way that we're triggered is through muscular constriction, which is basically our body preparing to fight or flee because the part of our brain that should be able to separate now from years ago is not working, our anterior cingulate. So we have to intentionally uh, self-regulate if we want to interrupt this process. So you'll have to self-regulate less and less, and also it will get easier and easier, guys, the more that you do this. You have to make it a discipline. But you have to make it a discipline for the rest of your life if you want to live free of stress. And the quicker that you accept that, the quicker that you'll continue to do it and see results. So I took a little bit of time to answer that question because it's such a good question. And thank you for asking. Okay. And I'm so excited about your results, Faisal. Just keep pressing on, man. You're gonna totally beat this, but just make self-regulation a discipline forever. So one more thing. So self-regulation, it takes 1 to 3 seconds. So let's say that it takes 2 seconds a piece where you shift the focus away from whatever you're doing, you notice muscular constriction, you release it, and then you shift your focus. If you do that 200 times a day, that's only 10 minutes a day to live completely free of stress and thus live completely free of dissociation. 10 minutes a day, like people meditate for like an hour a day sometimes. Like we watch TV sometimes for 2-3 hours a day. I'm saying invest 10 minutes to keep your muscles relaxed and keep a healthy focus to live completely free of stress. Like it's worth the investment. It really, really is. And I'm living proof, guys, that you can live free of stress and dissociation if you're willing to put in the discipline. Like I rarely experience stress anymore. Like it does happen. I'm not gonna pretend I'm like Jesus or Gandhi or Yoda or anything like that. Like that happens, but it's rare. It's like maybe 3 or 4 times a month, whereas it used to be 24/7. So okay, Marcia. So oh, Emma said close enough pronunciation. Okay, I'm doing my best. Awesome. Marcia says, I still resist and experience depersonalization, but I associate it with a lot of body tension. Absolutely. So, one of the things that I've found whenever I teach people self regulation is a lot of times they've been chronically constricted for so long that they don't even know what it feels like to have a relaxed body. And maybe they've tried to do things to numb this chronic constriction, or maybe they've just been so numb and dissociated that they don't even notice the chronic constriction. But it's going to take a little bit of time to start to be able to notice that constriction, especially if you're chronically constricted. One of the things that I suggest people to do is to practice progressive muscle relaxation, maybe once or twice a day for a little bit, which is where you basically start with your head and go through each muscle group and tense it all the way down to your feet. and then you can go all the way back up your body. And what that's going to do is whenever you tense and then release, even your face, and then relax it, shoulders, back, chest, what's going to happen is you're going to start to pick up whenever your muscles are tense throughout your day. Whereas if you didn't have that cognitive contrast through doing progressive muscle relaxation and starting to feel the difference between constriction and relaxation, you probably wouldn't be able to notice it. Also, you can work with a massage therapist. They can intentionally massage your muscles and show you what it feels like to have them relaxed and also constricted. So that way you can start to feel the difference and be able to notice when they're constricted. But yeah. So just give it time, Marcia. You just started with this, and it's gonna take a little bit of discipline and time. But you're amazing. You're going to beat this. You're just gonna go bam, depersonalization, knockout. Okay. Hi, Jordan. What's up, Jared? Right now, I feel like I'm mostly out of DPDR. Okay, hold on a second. Hold on. Say that again. I feel like I'm mostly out of DPDR. So guys, I want to celebrate that for a second. Okay. A lot of times in recovery, it's so up and down. With DPDR, it is, you guys know, it is like a roller coaster. It can be so unpredictable. Sometimes you can be doing everything that you know to do, but yet still have really bad days or even bad weeks or even bad months sometimes. And you have to learn how to celebrate the small victories. You have to learn how to take some success, even if it's very minuscule, and make it seem like it's just like the most amazing thing ever, right? So if you have even like a minute, right? If you're feeling DPDR 24/7 or anxiety and you go 1 minute without experiencing it because you try self-regulation, like celebrate that. Be like, oh man, see, for me, that was what led to a big breakthrough. Um, was whenever I started to change my response to my symptoms, and I started to get breaks in how long that I was experiencing them for. And I would look back and be like, wow, I just went like 30 minutes without experiencing DPDR. If I can do something to get free for 30 minutes, I can do something to live free of this 24/7. And I started to see that I was in control of my symptoms. They were not in control of me. So celebrate the small victories. Moving on. You feel like you're mostly out of DPDR, Jared, and now you're overcoming anxiety, trying to get over psychosomatic symptoms, trying to get over what basically feels like MS. Any experience with this? That is a very good question. Um, give me more specifics about the specific symptoms that you're still experiencing, so that way I can kind of speak directly into that. Because I don't want to assume that I know exactly what you're meaning. So ask me some more specific questions, and I would love to answer that. Not today says you have tattoos. Yes, I unfortunately have. And guys, I only got like 4 hours of sleep last night. Just to give you guys a little uh, kind of inside scoop, I am almost finished with a brand new outline to totally re-record the course. I would say probably 70% of it's going to stay the same, but I'm condensing it from 10 pillars to 4 pillars. And I am going a lot more in depth and making things even more clear. And it's just, I'm proud of it. I'm excited for it. But I've been spending about 14 hours a day for the last week working on this course. And I said this right at the beginning before I sent the live video out to you guys. But anyway, it's going to be here. I'm hoping within a few weeks. Don't hold me to that because it's a lot of recording I have to do, a lot of work. But anyway, I'm going off of like 4 or 5 hours of sleep. I was up until like 5, and then my wife woke up and she's like, "Let the dog out." I was like, ah. So anyway, that's coming up. Uh, so yeah, sorry, the tattoos. So I was 18 years old, and I thought that I was going to be a cage fighter. Yeah, you can laugh. I know. Yeah. So I was training mixed martial arts. I did Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I love Brazilian Jiu Jitsu to this day. I don't practice anymore, but I still remember it. So better watch out, boy. I'm just kidding. But basically, I did Muay Thai kickboxing, and I thought I was going to be a cage fighter for a living. So I was 18, and I lived like a couple hours from home or whatever. Had my own apartment. I'm thinking, I would look. I didn't have this beard, which I'm not saying it makes me look tough or anything, but I thought the best way to look tough would be to go get some ink. So I went to the tattoo parlor. And I was like, "Hey, man, can I get a tattoo like right here, or like right there, so that way my shirt could cover it up?" And the guy's like, "Oh no, bro. No, let's do it on your forearm." Like that would be cooler. And I'm like a naive, you know, uh, 18-year-old. So I'm like, yeah, yeah, okay, no problem. One of the biggest mistakes in my life. So basically, I went into a little book uh, with different symbols, like Chinese symbols, and I just picked three that kind of meant something in my life. Like one of them says God, because I'm a person of faith, and that still applies today, which is cool. The other one is like, so let's see if I can remember. This one, that means God. That one means fighter, and then that one means respect. So it's not that cool of a story. I wish I would have got something that meant more, and I wish that I would have got it up here, so that way everybody doesn't ask me about it and think that it's like some sort of important thing. So yes, I have tattoos, but I'm never gonna get any again. Okay. All right, Kennedy. Good question, not today, or good comment. Kennedy Williams, I'm back to seeing almost in one dimensional whenever I leave my house. Everything feels Okay, I'm back to seeing in one dimensional whenever I leave my house. Everything feels foreign again. I don't know what I did wrong. I had the question this morning about not having a routine with school being out. Okay, I remember that. Also, I've been sorting through my childhood trauma and crying about around the clock. So much I didn't know I knew. Flashbacks, nightmares, all the fun stuff. Okay, well, first of all, I'm really sorry to hear about what you're experiencing, and I did answer your question on the forum, and I gave some tips for you. So make sure to apply that. But this is what I want to say about childhood trauma, or just we'll even say past trauma. A 20th century understanding would say that we need to go back and revisit those traumas. We need to talk about them and see them differently. And I'm not saying that there's not a place for that, especially if we've taken the blame for something that we didn't do, and we have unhealthy shame. It's good to generally think differently about situations. But there's a method of trauma recovery that I do not endorse whatsoever, which is that the way to recover is to spend a lot of time talking and revisiting these trauma memories. But actually, the way that past traumas are showing up in the present is through muscular constriction. All right. That's how they're showing up in the present. And what's happened a lot of the time is whenever we think about that thing or whenever it happened, we stayed in survival mode, right? In fight, flight, or freeze response, which meant that we were never able to heal and process the emotion and get the trauma out of our system. Our mind and body have this amazing ability to heal themselves. But if we're in survival mode, if we're in fight, flight, freeze response, which includes dissociation, that is not a time of healing. That's a time of preparing to fight, flight, or freeze because our brain and nervous system think our life is in jeopardy. So, if you've got trauma from the past, you have to understand that that wasn't processed. The way that you handle it is you get into a relaxed muscle body, you shift your focus to something healthy, and people, if I'm talking to them and I'm walking them through this, is I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna help you relax your body. I'm gonna walk you through self-regulation or progressive muscle relaxation. And then now that you're in a relaxed muscle body, I want you to take a second and just think about what happened in the past. Almost every time. They start processing because they're finally out of survival mode. What happens is we've got all this trauma from the past. This is what basically what PTSD is. And I lived with PTSD for 5 years of my life, maybe longer. Um, is you've got something from the past that is still sensitized and we're still in survival mode in relation to that thing. So, thus, we haven't been able to process it. It may be in the form of allowing our body to shake and discharge fight or flight energy. It may be in the form of rage that needs to manifest. It may be emotion that needs to process. But nonetheless, when we get into a state of safety, when we feel safe in our environment, when we feel safe around people, when we feel safe in our body, we get into a safe state, and then our mind and body will just naturally release and process all of the trauma related things that need to be healed. So it's like really, this whole thing is pretty simple whenever it comes to healing trauma. You don't have to revisit every detail of your past traumas. You simply need to realize that the way that the past is showing up in the present is in the form of these muscle constrictions, which is keeping you in survival mode and is not allowing you to enter a state of safety and thus experience healing. So, if you can get into a state of safety, you will naturally start to process the trauma and heal from it. And then at that point, once you think about it, it's not going to produce this overwhelming constriction, and which is basically a huge trigger, which could manifest in flashbacks and nightmares as well. You're going to have this memory of it, but it's not going to be a charged, sensitized memory that has an effect on you right now. So, yeah. So, stay in a relaxed muscle body. And then when you think about it, it will start to desensitize that. And also, EMDR therapy could also help you to desensitize trauma memory if you're having flashbacks or nightmares. I highly suggest EMDR therapy as well, which is where they intentionally go through and help desensitize trauma memories if you're having flashbacks and nightmares. So there's hopefully, uh, but I will say, you're crying. You said you're crying around the clock. That's great, guys. Never suppress crying. If you're crying, that means that your body is processing something. That's how we naturally grieve things, is through part of how we naturally grieve things is through crying. Um, so yeah, yeah. So Kennedy, read your forum comment that I left you. I told Kennedy, like, he's out of school now, and what happens a lot of times is we, whenever somebody gets out of school, or they go from a very structured situation to a very unstructured situation, like summer vacation, or maybe they lose their job, or you know, just get out of a relationship, your whole routine is kind of thrown off. And if you don't reestablish a new healthy routine, then all of a sudden you don't have any predictability in your life. And our brain and nervous system love predictability. They love to be able to already determine what's going to happen. We can't determine everything that's going to happen in life, but we can have a routine built that creates kind of like a GPS for our life. Just like if you're traveling across the country, it's a lot better to have a GPS than just wondering what is the next road that we're going to take. It's a lot easier to enter survival mode if you're always wondering, what am I going to do tomorrow? What am I going to eat tomorrow? Where am I going to go tomorrow? But if you've got a solid routine, that is so much more healthy for your brain and nervous system. So also told him to self-regulate 200 times a day, to make sure to be engaging in social situations, to write out a vision for his life, and get something to focus on that's healthy instead of just sitting around and focusing on symptoms. So okay. Faisal, who's and guys, I'm getting your questions. Hang on, I'm going to get to them. I just want to give everybody the best answer that I can. You guys are amazing. I love you. Faisal Hussein says, and I wanted to ask what I can shift my focus on during the day. That is a good question. That's why it's so important to have a vision for your life. Like, for example, today is a very typical day. I'm going to probably be making a video for somebody. I'm going to be probably working on a YouTube video. I'm going to be working on my online course. I'm going to be giving advice to somebody. I'm trying to eat a little bit healthier. I do exercise, and I'm working towards things, right? Whenever I was experiencing DPDR all the time, I did not have a routine. I did not have passions and hobbies and all these things that I can set my mind on. I didn't have any of that, guys. And whenever you don't have a vision for your life and objective things that you can be doing every single day to work towards that vision, it's very, very easy to just let your mind wander and ruminate about all these things that you would never ruminate on if you had something to occupy your mind in a healthy way. But you have to also shift your physiology, or else you're not going to be able to distract your mind enough to override your physiology. Maybe you could, but it's going to be very, very difficult. I gave this example today, actually, in a video that I did for somebody. So you guys have heard of distraction, right? You just got to distract your mind. That's the key to getting over anxiety and DPDR. If you try to distract your mind without shifting your physiology first, that is like trying to distract your mind and not think about a monkey being on your back, slapping slapping you in your face. Imagine a monkey literally is on your back, slapping you in the face. You need to get the monkey off your back first, okay? And then you'll be able to more easily focus on something that's healthy. So whenever you shift your physiological state, you get into a relaxed muscle body, all of a sudden the monkey's off your back and you can breathe and you can easily shift your focus to a hobby, to a passion, to something that you've implemented in your life. But you have to do both: physiology, change your physiology, and shift your focus to something healthy. And yep, do it. All right. Isaac Hernandez, what's up, Isaac? Hey, I was wondering if diet could play a role in recovery of DPDR, and if you've heard of the keto diet and your thoughts on it. Okay. Yes, diet plays a role. Food is mood. You can write that down. I have a friend who's like a fitness expert, and he told me that one time. Food is mood. You are what you eat. If you eat a bunch of processed stuff, it will have a cognitive impact. So what I tell people, and this was I had to do this in my recovery, is eat whole foods. And I'm not talking about whole foods like the grocery store chain. That's a great place to get whole foods, but I just mean like fruits and vegetables and things like that, instead of hot pockets and frozen pizzas and like chips and snacks and sweets and all that stuff. Like you want to eat whole food that comes from the earth. Oh, and also B complex and magnesium are very, very, very helpful. They give you a cognitive boost. So I highly suggest you take those as well. But oh yeah, diet is, it's not make or break, guys. I'm not gonna say, there's some people, I haven't heard a lot of people say this, but I've heard some people say, yeah, I cured my DPDR through changing my diet. And that's great for you. As long as you're recovered, I don't care how it happened. I'm just glad that it happened. But diet is not the cure to DPDR. It's one minor factor. It's important. And I'm not saying minor as if it should be neglected, but I'm saying the main way to get rid of DPDR is to send signals to your brain and nervous system that you're in a state of safety, which is by becoming safe in your body through self regulation, uh, through going into your environment and actually living and not avoiding everything, and self regulating and shifting your focus as you're living life, getting a vision for your life, having a healthy focus. That is the main stuff that's going to get you out of DPDR in the long run. Now, are there a bunch of little small stuff that can help facilitate that end goal of recovery, like diet? Absolutely, right? But I'm not going to put so much emphasis on diet to say that it's like the cure. It's definitely not, but it is an important factor. As far as, do I understand the keto diet? Like, um, my wife does different diets and stuff, guys. As you can tell, I mean, I'm a small dude. Like, I've never been on a diet in my life. Like, I just, how God made me, I guess. Um, I literally could eat like 10,000 calories a day and probably lose 5 pounds. So I don't know anything about any of the diets. So sorry, buddy. But great question though. Okay, Roxanne. Okay, I have a few questions. First, don't quite get writing the letter exercise how it works. Also, how to deal with your horrible dread feeling in the pit of your stomach. Okay, very good question. So she's referring to the emotional closure letter through these subconscious muscle constrictions. So because of that, that the emotional closure letter it's not absolutely necessary as far as desensitizing ourselves from the pain of our past. If we can get into a state of safety in the present moment, if we think about the pain of the past, past trauma, stuff like that, we will just naturally express emotion or rage or whatever. So the purpose of that letter is to intentionally activate any sort of emotions that may be repressed. So you can do it. It's great, and I'm actually going to have it in the part about grieving. There's a section that I'm going to have in this new course about what to do if you're grieving something and processing a major trauma. Which those letters may be a really good way in the moment, like the first few days after something hard happens, to really allow yourself to write a letter to whatever happened and just unleash that emotion tremendously. So, but as far as using it for stuff that happened a long time ago, at this point, in my understanding, I would say go ahead and pass on that. Unless I would only write about stuff that is a current active trauma that you feel is there's emotions that need to process if you wanted to. But remember, As you self-regulate, you walk around in a relaxed muscle body. Your mind and body are going to naturally process that emotion eventually, once you're out of a threat response and once you're out of survival mode. So, yeah, it's not necessary, but it's something that you could definitely do. But you kind of said you don't get how it helps. So, I think I explained that, but it's basically just to intentionally release and get out emotions. I used the letters, and I felt like they helped me release some emotion about some past stuff with some people. And I wanted to say stuff to them, but I couldn't say it to their face. But when you write this letter, you pretend that you're writing it to somebody or something that you normally couldn't talk to. And it just allows you to finally say what you really want to say and get out that emotion. So, anyway, it can be very helpful for people, but I think it's best fit for a current active major trauma that's happening in your life. So, hope that answers your question, Roxana. Thank you so much for that. Oh, sorry. You said what about the dealing with the horrible dread feeling in the pit of your stomach? That's your sympathetic nervous system being activated. That is basically you're in survival mode. You're in a state of survival, and as opposed to dealing with that specific symptom, you actually want to get into a state of safety, into a calm state through self-regulation, which is shifting your physiology and your focus. And once you're in a state of safety, that pit of dread, which is basically a saying, what if this bad thing happens? What if that happens? That's all going to go away because that's a part of a survival state. Once you're in a state of safety, the appropriate symptoms for a state of safety are you feel safe. You don't have this sense of dread that the worst thing is going to happen all the time. You actually have a sense of safety in your body, in your environment, around people, and you actually start to think the best of situations and visualize the best because we often visualize based upon whatever state we're in. So if we've got cortisol and if we've got adrenaline pumping through our veins, the stress hormones, we're going to be a lot more likely to visualize something negative and to have that sense of dread because we've got all of this fight or flight energy in our body. We've got all these stress hormones flowing through our bloodstream, so it's going to feel natural to dread and to assume the worst about everything. So instead of focusing on getting rid of these individual symptoms, you have to understand a sense of dread is actually appropriate for a survival state because you're always on alert. Your brain and nervous system think a tiger is going to attack you at any moment. So it's like a hypervigilant state. You're just overly aware of everything. You're just waiting for something bad to happen. That's actually appropriate and good for that state. The problem is that you're in a survival state when I'm just betting that there aren't any tigers around. And you can actually get out of the state that's producing that symptom and get into a state where the symptoms are opposite of those symptoms, which would be a calm state where you think clearly, you have a sense of peace in your body, your environment, around people, etc. So yeah. Same with depersonalization, guys. Depersonalization, derealization are trauma coping mechanisms. If I was being eaten by a tiger, I don't want to feel connected to my body. Like I don't mean to laugh at depersonalization, derealization, guys. I know that it's like super uncomfortable, but you have to kind of start to change your understanding and attitude and start to almost appreciate these symptoms. Are they manifesting at the wrong time? Yeah, absolutely. Right symptoms, right state, wrong time. But it doesn't mean that the symptoms are bad. The problem is that we're in a state of survival because of what we're doing with our physiology, our focus, because of our misunderstanding about what's going on. And that's what needs to be corrected. But depersonalization, derealization are just like an airbag in a car. Do you want to drive around without an airbag? What if you get into an accident? You would want to have an airbag present to help create distance so that way you don't get hurt. Same with depersonalization, derealization, emotional numbing, numbing to pain. If I was being eaten by a tiger or in some sort of life threatening danger, I would absolutely love to feel out of my body, to feel like everything's a dream, to to feel numb to pain and emotion. Like I want those in my arsenal, you could say, for the appropriate context. But what I don't want is to have the airbag deployed while I'm trying to drive around town and I'm not in an accident. In other words, I don't want to be dissociated and numb whenever there is no life threatening danger. And that's where we simply have to understand that our brain and nervous system are going to respond based on what we're doing with our body and our focus moment by moment. So we have to start changing the signals that are being sent to our brain and nervous system. And we have the power to get back into a state of safety. Yep. Hope that helps. You're awesome, Roxana. Okay. Emma, what's up, Emma? And guys, I'm gonna get to your questions. Keep asking them, guys. Um, Emma, good to see you. I'm in stage 4 trauma and don't seem to have any muscular constriction at all. I just don't. I just feel limp and weak, like a dead fish. Okay. Well, you said LOL, so I'm laughing. I know it's like horribly uncomfortable, for sure. But so state 4 severe trauma, which I mentioned in my course, that's where actually fight or flight symptoms and mildly stressful symptoms, they shut off. That's where somebody is just totally dissociated, and numb, and they kind of feel spaced out. And that would be the point where, let's say, this is what our brain and nervous system thinks is happening in that state. Let me get a drink of water real quick. At that point, our brain and nervous system think that because we're not fighting, because we're not fleeing, but we still feel overwhelmed, that the tiger must have us, around the neck and is taking us to the tiger's den where there's 20 other tigers that are about to eat us. So since we're not fighting or fleeing, we're not resisting, but we're still overwhelmed. At that point, there's no point in having fight or flight symptoms or stress symptoms. Those were for a very specific context that we're resisting, right? Maybe we're resisting our symptoms, or we're resisting some sort of life threatening danger or something that's perceived as danger. That's where stress, fight or flight symptoms are appropriate. But if we stop fighting, then that means our brain and nervous system think that we're about to be eaten, and we basically, it's game over. So let's just make them as numb and dissociated as possible. This is why I have a concern with somebody saying that depersonalization, derealization are a symptom of anxiety. Because technically speaking, it's the truth. But number one, it's not just any anxiety, it's traumatic anxiety. It's overwhelming anxiety that causes depersonalization, derealization to show up. And number two, in state 4 severe trauma, there is no anxiety. The person feels just totally numb and dissociated. Um, so it's confusing for those people. So with that being said, you said you don't have any muscular constriction. Well, if you're in state 4 severe trauma, you have a lot of muscle constriction. I promise you. But you're probably just so numb and dissociated that it's hard for you to detect it right now. So because of that, it's going to take you a little bit more effort on your part in order to be able to detect it. But it's still very possible. But you may have to work with a massage therapist. You're going to have to invest a little bit more time. Start doing progressive muscle. Say that to know fast. Start doing progressive muscle relaxation, like 4 or 5 times a day. As far as start at your head, pinch your face. Doesn't that look cool? Then relax it. Then go to your neck, your butt, your legs, all the way to your feet, and also your. What you'll do is, by intentionally constricting your muscles and then relaxing them, you're going to start to be able to see that, wow, I actually am pretty constricted. Once you start doing these body scans throughout your day, even though you're in state 4 severe trauma, you're completely dissociated and numb, you're still going to be able to pick up on these constrictions and then release that tension. But absolutely, you can't be in state 4 severe trauma without there being a lot of chronic constriction in your body. So I know you can't feel it right now, but it's definitely there. It just takes a little bit of discipline. Just like if I go to a furniture store, like let's say I was buying this thing, which I did buy at my stepdad's furniture store he works at. So there's a moment where I was sitting in different chairs, and I had to shift my focus and become aware of how my body felt pressed up against the surface of this chair. And I kind of, you know, and I was like, this feels cozy. But I wasn't aware of that automatically. I had to intentionally, forcefully, and intentionally put my focus on how my body felt. It's a very visceral sensation that I'm picking up on as far as what my body feels pressed against the surface. And in order to detect these muscle constrictions, which are very, very subtle at times, even if you weren't fully dissociated in state 4 severe trauma, even if you were just partially dissociated, it takes discipline to be able to pick up on them. So give yourself some grace. It's going to take a little bit of time, but you'll start to notice them, and then just release the tension and then shift your focus to something healthy, and do that 200 times a day. About every 10 minutes, set an alarm on your phone if you need to. Body scan, if there's tension, release it. I suggest relaxing your pelvic floor muscles, which I can go over in a minute if you guys wanted me to, and then have something healthy to focus on. And you'll start to desensitize yourself to whatever is keeping you triggered and in that state. Okay. And I'm sorry to hear that you're going through this. I know that that's so tough, but you're going to beat this. You guys, you're all going to beat this. I got some good news for you. Like, it's a very basic thing that's going on. It seems complicated, but we're dealing with basic human biology, and it's the same with all mammals. Actually, all mammals can access fight, flight, or freeze response. So we just have to understand what's going on, change our response, and give it time. All right. Okay, Roxanne says, and one more, how tremor exercise is different than like regular exercise? Do they both release built up tension? That is a very, very, very good question. So I have a set of exercises that it was actually a few different videos that I watched, a few things that I read, and I just kind of combined them all into just these little exercises that discharge fight or flight energy. And she's asking, are the exercises that are in this course the same as in just general exercise? In other words, can we discharge fight or flight energy through general exercise? Do we have to do those exercises where we induce the tremor response? The short answer is yes. You can discharge fight or flight energy through exercise, but it's going to take considerably longer to discharge fight or flight energy through general exercise than if you do those intentional exercises that are designed to activate the shaking, the tremor mechanism in your body. That's the quick. It still takes time, even with doing those exercises. But yeah, general exercise is fantastic, and you can get a release of that energy as well, for sure. But I suggest those exercises, absolutely. Good question, Jared. Okay, so Jared's clarifying now. The symptoms I am experiencing are numbness in my face, in hands, clumsiness, and muscle twitches, and speech slurring mainly. Okay, gotcha. So first of all, make sure to see a doctor, because there's some symptoms that I just can't absolutely guarantee are associated with fight, flight, freeze response. It sounds like it could be. I can't diagnose anybody, but assuming that these are based on fight, flight, or freeze response, your your strategy should not be to try to get free of these individual symptoms, because they're actually appropriate for the state that you're in. Just like exhaust smoke is appropriate if the car engine is on. If you want to get the exhaust smoke to turn off in a car, you have to shut off the engine. That's what's going to get you the results. Likewise, the engine of our sympathetic nervous system is on because of what we're doing with our physiology, our focus, because of misunderstanding. And thus, if we can shift our physiology, get into a relaxed muscle body, have a healthy focus, change our understanding of what's going on, and start moving in life and getting out in life, engaging in life, having a vision for our life, all of those things will slowly get back into a state of safety. And the appropriate symptoms of a safe state are not numbness in your face, hands, clumsiness, muscle twitches, and slurring speech. Assuming that these symptoms are related with those states, which it sounds like they possibly could be, get with the doctor to verify that. Don't focus on the symptoms, guys. Don't be symptom focused. Be state focused. You need to transition from a state of survival, which would be fight, flight, freeze response, into a state of safety. And once you're in a safe, calm state, all the symptoms that you hate, including dissociation and fight or flight response and panic attacks and all phobias, irrational fears, inability to concentrate, pounding heart, all of that stuff will automatically shut off by itself, right? But what happens is we try to individually get rid of these symptoms through our mind, through saying the right things, and that's not, our brain and nervous system do not respond to, or I should say, our nervous system doesn't respond to cognitive approaches. Talking about it, thinking about it, it's not going to do anything. The same nervous system that's regulating our heartbeat as well as our breathing is the same nervous system that's producing stress and trauma symptoms. So if I try, like, heart, stop. Come on. Come on, buddy. Stop. Stop beating right now. Heart, come on, stop. Hmm. Oh, look, it's still beating. Breathing, stop right now. Oh, you see what I'm saying? Like, I've used that example so many times, and it's amazing. My heart never stops, my breathing never stops. Why does that happen? Because they're non-cognitive processes, right? Now, could I influence my brain and or sorry, can I influence my heartbeat and breathing? Yeah, I can influence them. Why or how? If I get up and start sprinting and change what I do with my physiology, I can have an influence over my nervous system because it does respond to the state of my body. If I start tensing my muscles, my heartbeat will probably start increasing. My breathing will elevate. So you have to learn what what influences your brain and nervous system on a non-cognitive level, which is primarily our physiology and our focus. Yeah, hope that helped. Okay. Awesome question, Jared. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm going to continue on with these questions. Emma Gornichek. Did I say that right? Can you explain stage 4 trauma a little more detail? I feel absolutely 100% nothing, no stress or anxiety, no emotion. I don't see how anything is supposed to help at this stage. So that's a. Did you comment in the forum about that? You may have. So a lot of people have this question of how are my symptoms helping? Like, Jordan, you say that you say that stress and anxiety and depersonalization, derealization are helping. I don't feel helped by this at all. I want to clarify. So what I'm doing is I'm causing you to see the ultimate goal of these symptoms. Okay, that they are there to help you in the sense of, if you were dying, if you were under some sort of life threatening danger, these symptoms would be very helpful. They're not helpful for you right now because you're not in danger. But if a tiger was munching on you and you had tried to fight it, you tried to flee from it, and you were unsuccessful, state 4 severe trauma would actually be a very, very helpful state. You would be totally numb. You would feel exactly as you do now. But it doesn't feel helpful because you're not in the appropriate survival circumstance that would make the symptoms beneficial for you. But but that still doesn't take away from the fact that they are ultimately designed for our safety and to mitigate the level of pain and discomfort of our death if a tiger was eating us. Which, I don't know why a tiger would want to eat me, because what is it? These symptoms don't feel helpful. And I agree. Right now, they're not helpful. They're hurtful in the sense of they're disrupting your lives. But the reason why I say that they're there to help you is to let you know that they can't hurt you. And as uncomfortable as they are, they're designed ultimately for your protection. They're just like an airbag in a car. They're there to create some distance, to kind of make you feel kind of out of it and dissociated and numb. So that way, if you are being eaten by a tiger, it's not as painful and it's not as uncomfortable. So I hope that gave some clarification. You're amazing and you're going to beat this. I know it's tough right now, but just hang in there, keep executing on a strategy, even if you don't feel like it, and you're going to beat this. Okay, good question, Emma, and thank you so much for being here. Kennedy Williams, I was also put back on 30 milligrams of Lexapro that I was on for many years with hardly any DPDR, though there was plenty in childhood. Hoping for the best. Good luck, everyone. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, anything about medication, make sure to talk to your doctor or a licensed mental health professional. I can't tell you anything about medication, but you definitely, how do I say this? If someone were to take my course and be on medication, it won't influence their recovery unless they were having severe withdrawal symptoms. Then it would make recovery a little bit more difficult, but still 100% doable. So just know That's between you and your doctor, you and your mental health professional. But self-regulation, getting into a relaxed muscle body, shifting your focus, that works whether you're on medication or not on medication. So, all right. Emma, my blood pressure and heart rate are so much lower than they used to be. Is that normal? How can my body be stuck in total shutdown for 6 months? Do they think there could be any health dangers from this? That's a good question for sure. And I would encourage you to get with your doctor for sure about anything related to blood pressure, heart rate, things like that. How could your body be stuck in total shutdown for 6 months? I spent several months in state 4 severe trauma, and it's a very exhausting experience. It's not supposed to last for more than, like, let's say we were being eaten by a tiger. The symptoms are really not even designed to be there for more than a couple hours. But if we continually feel overwhelmed and we're not fighting or fleeing, then we can walk around state 4 severe trauma as long as we're still feeling overwhelmed and not fighting or fleeing. So there's hope you can get out of this, but yeah, it's actually kind of amazing how powerful our brain and nervous system are, that they're willing to keep these survival responses on for months and months or even longer because they think that we're in danger. It's like, I want you guys to just start shifting your attitude towards these symptoms and just see that they're actually a gift. I know that they feel like a curse, but I'm saying you almost start to have an appreciation for the symptoms of, you know what, this sucks right now, but if I was in a survival situation, these would be incredibly beneficial for me. And it just kind of helps you not resist the symptoms so much, and it kind of, you almost befriend them, and you're like, okay, yeah, hey, you're not supposed to be here right now. It's like whenever your friend shows up and you weren't planning on having a guest and he's really annoying and you're like, what the heck? But you appreciate if maybe you did plan on him coming over or her coming over, it would be a lot fun to hang out. Um, but anyway, so hope that helps you guys. Um, could there be any health dangers from remaining in a state of, let's say, state 3, moderate trauma, which would be where you have fight or flight symptoms and dissociation, or state 4 severe trauma, where you only have complete dissociation and numbness? I'll say this: whenever we're in a survival state, it suppresses our immune system. Um, and because of that, whenever our immune system is constantly suppressed, it does make us more susceptible to sicknesses and stuff like that. As far as impacts on our heart, like let's say our heart is always pounding, or let's say that our parasympathetic nervous system is basically sedating us, like in state 4 severe trauma, to the point that we just feel totally out of it. Maybe it slows our heart rate. Um, I'll give this example. Even if you're in full fight or flight mode, you have to understand that your heart is the most powerful muscle in your entire body. And it's just like if you rev, or if you were to go out in your car, turn it on, and hold the gas pedal to the metal, all right, and the engine is just revving up. A lot of people think that that does damage to your engine, and the truth is it doesn't. Maybe, I think I read like right at the beginning or something, it's not good to do. Like if you just, I can't remember, but anyway, generally speaking, even if you speed while you're driving and go as fast as you can, your car is built to handle that, guys. Our bodies are super, super powerful. So we can walk around in mild stress, high stress, dissociation, um, state 3, state 4 trauma symptoms for a long, 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 long time. And our body is built for that. We are amazing, um, amazing machines. So, yeah, you're tougher than you think. But see your doctor, etc. But I would focus on getting back into a state of safety, Emma, and you can do this. Okay. Caleb Cross. Anybody else have visual snow, halos, sparkles of DPDR? It's not that obvious for me, but it's scary because nobody talks about these as symptoms as commonly. It is symptoms other. It is symptoms of other conditions, though. Very, very, very good question, Caleb. So I'll tell you this: visual disturbances are incredibly, like, almost textbook. They are really textbook symptoms of being in a stressful state, which would include traumatic stress and also dissociation. because our pupils are dilated. We're letting in a lot more light. And whenever you start letting in a lot more light, you may become aware of eye floaters that maybe you didn't see anymore. But now that there's so much light and sensory input coming in, you start to become aware of them. It may cause there to be little moments where there's so much light coming in that you start to see those little sparkles. I've seen those tons and tons tons and tonses. Is tonses a word? I don't know if tonses is a word, but I just made it up, and I want a quarter every time you use it. So anyway, halos, sparkles. You want to see an eye doctor, guys. I never want to just say 100% that stuff like kind of the more subjective symptoms are. I guarantee you it's related to something. I also don't want to create any fear in you, but there is a time to get it checked out by a doctor, and maybe it's something that you need to pursue a different recovery method for something specific that's not related to that. But that's okay. You can beat that. It just won't be through self-regulation, through the strategy that I present in the course. But I will tell you this, what I would do is I would focus on getting into a state of safety, into a calm state using self-regulation, and the other things that I've talked about. And if you still are experiencing those I mean, see a doctor right now, okay, an eye doctor or whatever. But I'm saying I would just get into a state of safety, because once you're in a state of safety, into a calm state, you're going to be able to see what's still there. And for me, guys, all of the junk that was there because of a survival state, poof, left. Irrational fears, inability to concentrate, insomnia, pounding heart, dissociation, um, and just tons and tons of other stuff. Things that I thought at the time represented some sort of serious mental or physical condition, right? Because my neocortex was shut off because I was in survival mode. That's the logical part of our brain. So what's happening with you, my friend, Caleb, is your neocortex is not online right now. So you're entertaining all of these negative what if scenarios. What if these halos and these sparkles and this visual snow? What if it represents something serious? Here's what you can do. Number one, go see an eye doctor. All right, get that clean bill of health, or just a doctor in general. Get a clean bill of health. All right, I know it sucks going to maybe you go to urgent care or just your local doctor, whatever. I know that that's uncomfortable and inconvenient, but it helps to have that clean bill of health. Number two, you need to get your neocortex to turn back online by getting into a state of safety and calm, right? And then once the logical part of your brain is turned on, you'll start to realize, man, those irrational fears were totally irrational. Like, guys, I thought that I had epilepsy. I thought that I had, what all did I think that I had? Psychosis. Like, I thought I was going crazy. I thought I'd end up in the mental institution, guys. I thought I'd always experienced DPDR. I thought that they would never go away. Like, guys, I went through it. Like, it sucks. Like, I know what that's like are. But when you combine having adrenaline and cortisol pumping through your bloodstream mixed with your neocortex being online, not having that logical part online, it's a recipe for just it flowing with whatever fears that you have. So don't try to address these irrational fears using logic, because that part of your brain isn't even online right now. Get into a state that causes your neocortex to turn back online, a calm state, right? A state of safety. And then at that point, look at if there's any symptoms left, or if you still have those fears. That would be my suggestion to you. So hope that helps, Caleb. Thanks so much for being here. You're awesome. Isaac, I used to get that in the beginning of my DPDR, but it went away with time. Okay. I don't know exactly what you're referring to, but looks like you had another question. Okay. Alan Kagwa. What's up, Alan? Good to see you, man. I've had this unreality feeling back and forth, and when it has gone away, it has been like a chemical explosion in the brain and everything back to normal and no emotion numbing. Confirm, is it DPDR? Okay, good question for sure. Back and forth, and when it has gone away, it has been like a chemical explosion in the brain and everything back to normal and no more emotional numbing. That's a good question. If you don't mind maybe asking it, giving me a little bit more details, because I want to make sure I answer your question correctly. So Yeah, I'm gonna hold off on that because if you don't mind explaining it a little bit differently, that would really help me out because I don't want to just give answers that aren't specific to what you're saying. Um, okay, Isaac. Also, could you talk about physical symptoms of DPDR? I get weird numbness and slow motion sensations in my body and limbs. So, very, very good question. I don't want to talk about the symptoms of DPDR. And the reason why is because there's this illusion that happens where we think that if somebody can just describe my symptoms exactly like I do, that suddenly that's going to fix DPDR for me, and it's not. And I'm not saying that that's what you're thinking, but that's what I thought. I was just looking for somebody that could convince me that they were experiencing what I do. Everybody that experiences DPDR thinks that they have the worst case of it, and they think that they have this unique uncurable case. Everybody, because literally, guys, these are death symptoms. These are the most uncomfortable things that you're probably ever going to experience if you're experiencing DPDR. And because of that, because it's like it's so bizarre, we just assume that nobody else has experienced this before. Guys, half of all people have experienced DPDR and will experience it at some point in their life. 2% of the population will experience the disorder, even though there's nothing wrong with you, which is hundreds of millions of people. And everybody thinks that they have some uncurable, unique case. It's not the case, guys. I just said case twice. Sweet. So, with that being said, I don't want to focus on symptoms. I want to focus on getting you out of survival mode. All right. And if you get out of survival mode and the logical part of your brain turns back on and you get into a relaxed muscle body and you're still feeling a certain way, well, then that's where we would discuss it. And you could go to your doctor, mental health professional, etc. But if you feel disconnected from your body or anything similar, depersonalization, if you feel disconnected from the material world, that's derealization. Like, and there's a lot of different subjective ways to talk about it and describe it, but let's be state focused and not symptom focused. Make sense? Cool. Because your neocortex is shut down, even if I were to describe it exactly as you describe it, your logical part of your brain is not on. So you're still not going to be able to accept it. So it's completely pointless to spend a whole lot of time trying to talk about that. If that makes sense. I hope that helps. Be state focused and not symptom focused. Emma Gornacek. Isaac, I feel those symptoms too. They're totally part of this for some people. Thank you for the encouragement, Emma. Roxanne, what's up? Thanks, Jordan. Don't know how I could have gotten through this without you. Aw, you're the best. Guys, I love your encouragement, by the way. I've been getting so many comments lately and emails from people. And I can't wait for this new course, guys. I think it's gonna, you've already got what you need to recover with this current course, but I think it's just gonna clarify so many things for people and kind of make it much more palatable and understandable. Because I've condensed everything into 4 pillars, which is education. I explain the brain and nervous system and the different states. Self-regulation. I break down self-regulation. Also, the other pillar is mobilization. I teach you how to get moving again in life. The 4th one is prevention. I teach you how to process major traumas, which is what causes a lot of people to maybe have a period of time of recovery, and then they have a major trauma happen, which is a sudden, overwhelming amount of stress, and then they go back into dissociation and they feel helpless. But I'm going to teach you how to have a strategy for how to process major traumas in your life, and it's so simple, and I can't wait. I can't wait for it. But thank you so much for your encouragement, guys. It's like oxygen to me. It's probably 30% of what keeps me going in doing this stuff. Because guys, it's not easy to talk about this stuff. Like it really isn't. Like I don't like talking about the stuff that tormented my life for years and years. I like talking about it in the sense of I help people, but it's kind of uncomfortable to talk about this stuff sometimes. Like my body tenses, but I do it for you guys. I do it because I love you guys, and I'm willing to talk about something that's uncomfortable because you guys need clarification, you need encouragement, and it's necessary to help people. So I'm more than willing to do it, but I've probably self-regulated probably like like 100 times since I've since we've had this conversation, because I've got highly sensitized associations with a lot of what we're talking about. It's okay, guys. I mean, I feel completely free of stress, but anyway, so just yeah. So your encouragement is a huge motivating factor to continue pressing on and carrying this burden to help people. So thank you for your encouragement. Isaac Hernandez, thank you, Emma. It's a weird feeling that's hard to explain, and I barely hear anyone talk about it, so I was worried it was something else. Gotcha. Yeah, guys, if you're having this irrational fear, what if it's this? One thing that you can do, which will help you start to visualize a more positive scenario, when you're visualizing something negative, what if I have this? What if I have this serious mental, physical condition? What if this happens and it's negative? Start to ask a different question, a positive what if question. What if that's not the truth? What if I do beat this? What if I fully overcome this? What if I overcome depersonalization, derealization, and I become the president of the United States? Because if you look at this face right here, this is presidential material right here. No, I'm just kidding. What if I beat this and I'm more happier and fulfilled and calm than I've ever been in my entire life? Do you see like how different that is? Because whenever you ask these negative what if questions, what if this symptom represents something else? And guys, don't Google your symptoms ever, by the way. Go to a doctor, don't Google them. But whenever you visualize a negative what if scenario, you're actually playing a movie, and it's a lot of times subconscious. And whenever you play this movie, you're actually experiencing that movie via your five senses. Guess what? Your brain is your threat perception system is taking in information through your five senses, looking at how you respond in your body to determine if there's a threat, and also your focus. So whenever you play this negative mental movie in your head, you visualize a negative what if scenario, you're internally asking a negative what if question. Your brain and nervous system are going to respond with tension the same way whenever you watch a scary movie that it's not real, it's just a movie, but you start to respond as if it's real because you start tensing your body, because scary movies are like the ultimate negative scary situation, which is why I don't really watch them. So anyway, but when you start to ask a positive what if question, what if this good thing happens? What if the bad thing doesn't happen like I'm fearing? And then you start to visualize a positive scenario, and you calm your body as you're visualizing it. You can actually start to retrain your brain and nervous system just through visualization, right? So let's say you guys have some phobias. You have a fear of going in public, or you have a fear of driving over bridges, or fear of being in social situations. Whatever your phobia is, literally from the safety of your home, you can visualize being go around that thing, by the way. um, you're already going to have begun the process of desensitization. What they teach in psychotherapy is called progressive exposure, which is good in theory, but I don't ever hear anything about self-regulation. The whole idea is that if we just expose people to things over and over again, eventually it'll desensitize them. But I'm like, yeah, maybe. It seems like that does work for a lot of people, but why not relax the muscles in your body? That's the quickest way to desensitize yourself to some sort of phobia or some sort of trigger. So I believe in progressive exposure to something that you're currently afraid of. But I believe combining progressive exposure with self regulation to get the maximum amount of results. So, for example, if you have a fear of driving um, at night with a friend, drive around your block. Whenever there's no traffic, drive around your neighborhood and keep your muscles in your body relaxed. Or before you even do that, in your house, visualize yourself driving and keep the muscles of your body relaxed, and do that for about a week. And then at 10 o'clock at night with a friend, drive around your block, keep the muscles of your body relaxed. After you've done that, you start to feel your body tensing less. You learn how to control these body constrictions. You maybe drive maybe a I don't know, in maybe the parking lot of some sort of grocery store or something. And then you increase the exposure with the self regulation until you're driving on the freeway with all sorts of cars. That is one scenario that you can desensitize yourself to different triggers or whatever. So I don't know why I segued into that, but it's very helpful if you guys are experiencing phobias. Woohoo! Yay, phobias! No, they suck. Okay, guys, I have to pee. I'm gonna have to end this soon. Um, but I'm gonna keep going. Okay. Nicole Camarata. What is up, Nicole? Uh, hey everyone, I just wanted to say I've been following Jordan's guide since Aprilish and I'm almost completely recovered from DPDR. There is hope. You're all awesome and can do it. You had to do that, didn't you? You had to just make my whole day. Guys, listen to what Nicole said, right? She's almost fully recovered. April, May, June, July. Listen, I'm not saying that there's like a certain time frame. Everybody's different, okay? But I'm just saying she applied what she learned and she's seeing results, right? If we have a strategy that gets to the root of what's driving our symptoms, which is we're in a survival state instead of a calm state, and through self-regulation, through shifting our focus, all the things that I teach in the course, we can get back into a calm state and we can get our lives back. And let her story that she's sharing encourage you and let you know that you're not alone. I've beaten this. She's almost beaten it. Go to my website, dprecovery.com. You will see all sorts of comments that I have on there from people that have totally beat this using my course, using my YouTube videos. You're going to beat this. Like, I'm so confident in that now because I've seen it time and time and time again. And I realize how simple this whole process is after studying this a lot. So thank you, Nicole. You're awesome too. That's so cool. Alan Kagwal, the head pressure and the blood pressure or blood vessels being more shown in a sticking feeling intense like running is part of derealization. The unreality mostly feels in the night. Is this part of DR? Very good question, Alan. So head pressure and blood vessels being more shown and sticking, feeling intense. So derealization is a feeling of disconnection from the material world. So does that fit with derealization? Now, again, talk to your mental health professional, talk to your doctor, never take anything I say over them. So I can't objectively say for sure that that sensation is related to derealization. But once again, focus on getting into a state of safety. And if those symptoms are still there, well, then you would know that you need to pursue some sort of other recovery option. But yeah, hope that helps. Emma Gornichek. My body feels physically numb too, like I'm not as sensitive to touch or anything anymore. Like if I was hurt, I'd still have the physical pain, but it wouldn't seem as bad. Yeah, that's dissociation. That's part of numbness. My situation just feels so hopeless. I can't fight or get away from the circumstances, so no wonder why I'm chronically frozen. So, Emma, you're gonna beat this. All right. It's going to take time. It's going to take an intentional strategy, but learn to celebrate those small victories. All right. Make it your goal for every week to have at least 5 to 10 minutes where you don't feel dissociation because you're constantly self-regulating, which is shifting your physiology and your focus. Write out a really good vision for your life and build a routine around that. And yeah, celebrate the small victories, and that's going to propel you into full recovery because it is going to take time to go from state 4 severe trauma, or I don't know if that was you that said that that's where you're at. It's going to take some time. It really does, guys, because we have to retrain our brain and nervous system to not immediately respond with dissociation and with fight or flight response. And we've got thousands of triggers that we've sensitized ourselves to because we've been walking around with a deactivated anterior cingulate, and we're perceiving threat in the present based on what happened in the past. And it's just this cycle that you can get out of, but it will take time. So do not feel hopeless. You have all the tools that you need to recover, my friend. It's just simply about using those tools. So expect a very positive outcome, right? It's going to happen for you. Ali Coates, just checking to see if my intrusive thoughts question was received above. Thank you. Oh, I missed that. My apologies. And guys, I'm gonna have to. I don't want to go pee right now. I'm gonna wait. Um, okay, Allie, I'm so sorry I missed this. I hope you're still on there. Um, so you're no longer in a depersonalization derealization state. Woohoo! However, you're still feeling intrusive thoughts, and that feeling in line with DPDR. Why do people look weird, etc. So you're too much in your head. All right. So it's great that you're not feeling DPDR anymore, but don't stop there. All right. Don't settle for just getting over DPDR and coexisting with intrusive thoughts and all of these um, really ruminating fears. Continue to press on to get rid of these. And the way that you do that, number one, through self regulation, but number two, you have to find something else to fill your head with. It sounds like you've got too much available space, too much real estate in your head in order to, that's just available to focus on these fears. Get a get a awesome hobby. Get healthy mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, relationally, financially. Build 3-month goals, 6-month goals, year goals, and then build your daily routine around those things. It could be a hobby like reading books, going out with friends and family, maybe starting a business, maybe getting more healthy, maybe playing games. I'm a gamer nerd. I know most people probably aren't, but like I like to use my own example because this really helped me. Whenever I started doing YouTube videos, man, it became like a big focus of my life. And that's awesome because whenever I was at work and my mind would start to ruminate on all these fears or negative what if questions, I had something to shift my focus to while I was shifting my physiology. So I would say at this point, shift your physiology and shift your focus. That is the answer to intrusive thoughts. I'm not saying that that doesn't mean that sometimes these random thoughts are going to come in. I think that that's really just part of being human, but how we respond to them is going to determine if they dominate us or not. So change your response to them. I know self-regulation it seems like is the answer for a lot of stuff, and it's because it is, because that is the quickest way to shift you from a state of survival into a state of safety, is to change what you're doing physiologically and change what you're focusing on. And if you do both those things together, in my experience, whew, it's very, very difficult to be in a state of survival. And in fact, I would say it's impossible. If you are in a completely relaxed muscle body and have a healthy focus and are living life, engaging in life, and have a good routine, in my opinion, it's impossible to also experience stress at the same time. That's my opinion. That's been my experience. So hope that helps, Ali. Sorry I missed your question. I'm about to, I'm going to come back in just a few minutes, and I will come back. Awesome. Oh, okay. I'm back, guys. Whew, feel a lot better. Okay. I was starting to enter sympathetic activation through not being able to, to pee. Okay, I'm back. Okay. Um, Marcia says, "Love you, Jordan. You're spot on. Great Q&A. I'm learning so much. Can you talk about intrusive thoughts? Is the only way to get neocortex back by being calm?" So I just answered the questions about intrusive thoughts for Allie. So that would be my answer for that. As far as is the only way to get your neocortex back online to being in a calm state? Yeah, yeah, you have to be in a calm state. And I'm not saying that you have to be like Gandhi, like home, like you have to be like in a zen, like what do they call that, you're trying to reach what is it, enlightenment. Like, I'm not saying you have to be like enlightened or anything to get into a calm state, but you have to be under what's called parasympathetic dominance, which means your parasympathetic nervous system is like a brake. Think parachute, slows things down. That's what's responsible for rest and digest as far as our nervous system goes. That has to be the primary part of your nervous system that's dominating you, meaning that you're experiencing little to no stress, and then your neocortex will come back online. So I hope that answers your question. And also, thank you so much for your encouragement, Marcia. You're going to beat this, all right? I promise you. It's just going to take a little time. And I love your questions. Keep asking them in the forum as well as on here. Okay. Alan Cagwall. When this whole space, good to see you, Alan. Hello, Alan. Wait, is that from Jurassic Park? Alan. Yeah, I think the guy wasn't the guy's name Alan. Okie doke. Right. When this whole spaced out and emotional numbing disappear, I feel like something goes on in the brain, like a orgasm, and I feel the emotions are getting back and the life gets back to normal. Is it DR? Interesting. Okay, so this is you re-explaining. That's what I meant with the chemical explosion in the brain. Okay, so I want to make sure. Face out emotional numbing disappear. Feeling spaced out, emotional numbing are definitely associated with a trauma response for sure. So that I can tell you could be associated with the trauma. But but well, what's most important is it seems like your life gets back to normal. I don't know if that's continually happening or if you're still struggling. But I think your question is you're wanting to know if it's related to derealization. Um, Nothing you've described is specific to derealization. Derealization is a very, very, very specific trauma coping mechanism that is designed to make us feel out of reality, as if everything's a dream world, like there's a wall of glass between us in reality, like everything's a movie. Whenever I smoked marijuana and had a really bad panic attack, which is what started DPDR for me, like over 10 years ago, I experienced it for a year, went a break of about 9 years, and then started to experience it again for a year. I think it's been like 3 years ago now, the second time. But anyway, I looked around at my friends' cars, and it was like 10 o'clock at night, and the street light, and it was like raining, I think, and everything was like a movie. Like it literally felt like I had slipped out of reality, and like I was watching reality through like a projector screen, if that makes any sense. So anyway, so you know what I found happens a lot is people will take, and this is okay. First, I did the same thing, but they'll take symptoms that are generally associated with anxiety or with trauma in general, and they'll make them symptoms of depersonalization, derealization. So they'll, like, for example, light sensitivity. People will ask, is light sensitivity a symptom of depersonalization, derealization? No, it's not. Um, Depersonalization, derealization are symptoms of being in a traumatized state. And there are lots of symptoms that are the byproduct of being in a traumatized state. There are also lots of symptoms associated with being in an anxious state or a fight or flight state. So, yeah, so I hope that makes sense. So, depersonalization, we feel out of our body. Derealization, we feel disconnected from the material world. Everything feels dreamy. And there are different ways to describe those symptoms, but those symptoms are actually uh, not the root. The root is actually a traumatized state. Um, so, for example, I want to give one example of that. Let's say that I was experiencing the flu. Well, let's say that sneezing was a part of that flu. Well, the root problem is not the sneezing. The sneezing is a reflection of the real problem. So I wouldn't say that I have sneezing, right? Like I have sneezing disorder, etc. I would say no, the root cause is the flu. And if I take antibiotics and get, well, actually, you can't take antibiotics for the flu, can you? No, you can't. Let's say I had a bacterial infection. The way to get rid of the symptoms associated with that, maybe headache, um, sneezing, etc., coughing, is to take antibiotics and get rid of that bacterial infection, right? So I hope that that helps make some sense about what's going on. Depersonalization, neuralization are trauma coping mechanisms. They show up at the point that our stressful state reaches traumatic levels and we're so overwhelmed we can't cope. So our brain and nervous system think that we're dying, and thus they want to make our death via tiger as painless as possible because our brain and nervous system evolved during the African savanna days where the Neanderthals were always under threat of tigers or some sort of wild animal. And even though it's the 21st century and we're safe, our brain and nervous system are hardwired for the hostile conditions of those ancient times. And that's very critical to understand that. Okay. Great question, Alan, for sure. Roxanne, when I started to recover, I felt the same. Was almost strange to feel normal again. Yeah, like after you've spent a long time being dissociated or in fight or flight response, like it's very, like once you start feeling normal, normalcy can even feel a bit abnormal because it's so contrary to how you've been living for so long. So I totally understand that. Um, you were talking to somebody else. Okay, Alan Kagwa. That's a cool last name. Kagwa. Kagwa. Oh, it kind of rings off the tongue, doesn't it? Hi, I'm Alan Kagwa. Man, you got a cooler name than I do, man. Kagwa. Shoot. The last question, the derealization makes me feel like I'm awake, but looking at my hand feels like I'm watching, but still asleep and not in the entire moment like I'm watching things with a second eye in the brain. And I think you're wanting to know if that's DR. That sounds more like depersonalization, actually. If you're looking at your hands or looking at your body and you feel like something's off, you feel that sense of disconnection, that would be more on the depersonalization side of things. Once again, little disclaimer, get with your doctor, but based on what you're describing, it seems like that would be more depersonalization than derealization. Good question, man. Danny, that's a good question for sure. Once again, it comes back to brain fog is appropriate in a survival state. Now, the obliviousness, I actually don't know if I've ever heard that word describing survival symptoms or fight, flight, freeze symptoms. I know what you're probably talking about, but I probably heard it in a different way. You're wanting to know if you can make them not as apparent. Like, once again, we have to not address these symptoms directly because the symptoms are not the problem. The symptoms are appropriate for the survival states that we're in, whether it be fight, flight, or freeze response. So let's say that, going back to the car example, I think it's a good example. Let's say that there was car exhaust smoke and I didn't like it. Okay, I could put my hand over the tailpipe and I could try to mitigate how much exhaust smoke was coming out. I could try to, not make it as apparent, not see it as much. But what would people say if they saw me walking by? They'd be like, "Why don't you just shut the engine off?" Right? That'll take care of the exhaust smoke. The exhaust smoke is dirty, it's smelly, it's uncomfortable, but it's actually appropriate if the engine is turned on. Likewise, if you're experiencing fight or flight symptoms, that's appropriate when your sympathetic nervous system is activated. If you're experiencing dissociative symptoms, that's appropriate if your parasympathetic nervous system is producing dissociative symptoms because you're in a traumatized state. So, again, it's the right symptoms just at the wrong time. The problem that needs to be corrected is we shouldn't be in these survival states unless a tiger is attacking us. So we need to focus on getting back into a state of safety and calm, which is done through self-regulation and the things that we've been talking about. Hope that helps. Good question. Alan Kagwa. Um, Oh, you're talking to Roxanne. Okay. 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 Seems like one more or comment from Alan that I want to comment. Um, Alan Cagwell says, this whole feeling makes me question my reality and the part of being human, like I'm not really alive with what I'm experiencing. And sometimes it feels like death is near strange feeling. Well, these are death symptoms. I mean, hey guys, if you want to be an effective person, you got to tell people the truth. You have to be bold in that. And it's uncomfortable to think about, but your brain and nervous system think that you're dying right now. I'm just going to assume that you're not dying, but that's what they think. And I say think, I'm just saying that's how they're responding right now. Is basically they think that a tiger's eating you. So yeah, it's normal to feel like death. It's normal to feel as uncomfortable as death because those are the symptoms that you would feel if you were dying. Um, but one thing that I want to say as a life coach, I have to say what people need to hear, not what they want to hear. And that's why people come to me from all over the place wanting my advice, is because I've been like this since I was a kid. It's got me in a lot of trouble, actually. I'm getting better at this, but I just say what I think. Like, I just tell people the truth. And that's actually, it's annoying to a lot of people if they don't want to hear the truth, but you guys paid for my course and you want me to tell you the truth. So I'm going to be a little bit bold with you. For anybody that is focusing too much on symptoms, one of the things that happens is people reach out to me, and I can tell very, very quickly why they're not recovering. It's always because they don't have a body-based strategy, right? They're not shifting their physiology, they're not shifting their focus. That's like always with everybody, right? I've never met somebody that actually knew to do that. Everybody's trying to beat DPDR up here. But the second reason, or the second thing that I notice with somebody a lot of times very quickly is, what about this symptom? What about that symptom? What about, and I'm not making fun of anybody. I was the same way. I get this, but they're obsessing over the symptoms. What about this? Can you describe this symptom? What is this symptom related to? Symptom. And that, my friends, is the trap of depersonalization derealization and its associated symptoms. That will keep you in this illusion that by focusing on the symptoms and trying to logically understand them, which, remember, your neocortex is offline if you're in survival mode, so you're not going to be able to logically figure anything out. You think if you obsess over the symptoms and have everything figured out up here, that all of a sudden you're going to have this magical breakthrough. I did the same thing, especially with existential questions. All right. I used to have so bad existential fears that I would go into a state of terror just by thinking about existence. But once I started to step out of the boxing ring, and I talk about this in the course, I laid my gloves down and I said, you know what? I've been fighting this thing in my head and I ain't getting nowhere. Okay. I've been trying to internalize it. And I had this thinking that if I could, maybe I'll watch one more video on depersonalization, and this person is gonna have just this magical answer for me. It's almost like an addiction. We're addicted to figuring out the symptoms. But here's what you need to know. Number one, you won't beat them in your head by internalizing them. Number two, your symptoms are supposed to be confusing and uncomfortable and bizarre and weird. They're supposed to manifest to the point that if you're being eaten by a tiger, you would be like, man, I feel like really out of my body. Everything feels like a dream world. Like, they're intentionally designed by our nervous system to be very, very bizarre and confusing, right? That's part of what helps distract our mind if we were a cave person and a tiger was eating our body. We feel so weird, so disconnected that we're not focusing on what's happening. So with that being said, we can get caught in this unending bottomless pit of trying to beat DPDR through obsessing over the symptoms and trying to figure out the symptoms. And guys, I love you too much to not tell you that that is a dead end. You will never ever get out of DPDR by obsessing over the symptoms. You will only get out of it when you start to shift the state that you were in, when you transition from a state of survival into a state of safety. And then once you get into a state of safety, the symptoms that you don't like are not going to be there because they're associated with their survival state that you're not in anymore. And that is how you're going to recover. So I love you, Alan. You're amazing. Thank you for sharing that. But if I see somebody talking a lot about symptoms, I'm gonna tell them what I just told you. Don't be symptom focused, be state focused. If you're concerned about symptoms, go see a doctor, get a clean bill of health. Once you have that, you just have to just take this chance that, okay, yeah, I don't understand what's going on. I can't explain every single visceral sensation and symptom in my body and in my mind, but I'm going to take a chance that all this stuff is just related to being in survival mode. And I'm going to focus on getting back into a state of safety and a calm state. And if I get into a state of safety and all that stuff stays there, well, at that point, I'll go from there. But I want you to take a chance. All right. I want you to take a chance that all of your symptoms are associated with fight or flight response. Talk to a doctor, talk to a mental health professional, yes. But for me, all of the irrational fears, all of the mental, physical, emotional, weird symptoms that I experienced all went away because they were the byproduct of being in a state of survival when there was nothing to survive from. So as soon as I started to not focus on symptoms and focus on changing my state, that's whenever I started to see major, major results that ultimately got me fully recovered. And you can fully recover as well. All right. Ali Coates says, thank you, Jordan. Thank you guys as well. You're amazing. I can't wait to share this new course with you guys. I don't want to put a time frame on it because it's a lot of work. Within 3 weeks, I'm hoping. Within 2 weeks, I'm actually hoping, but we'll say 3 weeks. And you guys get free access to it because you already have this course. And I'm pretty proud of, I'm proud of the current course, but I'm really, really proud of this other one. I feel like this new course represents thousands of hours of study and condensing things and dissecting them to the point where it's so simple that you're going to be able to really get the big picture of what needs to be done even quicker than now. So that's why I love these live Q&A sessions in the forum as well, because that gives me a chance to really shape everything right now so that you guys can know what to do. But with this new course, I feel like even the level of questions I get is probably going to go down significantly. And it's okay if it doesn't, but it's just, I'm going to just really explain things in, I hope, an even more clearer way. Bye. I need at least one person. You guys are amazing. I hope this helped you. And you're awesome. You're going to do this. I need one person to tell me bye so then I can leave. And if you're just tuning in, I've seen a couple of people come on a little late. This is going to be available for you. Tiffany Ann, have a nice weekend. Good to see you, Tiffany. For sure. I hope you're doing awesome. And yeah, have a nice weekend as well. And this is going to be uploaded for you guys. And I'm also going to post this as like the very first video in the course. I'll put a link to this as well so you can go back and watch it. Roxanne, bye and thank you as well. I loved your comments and your questions. That was so awesome. Your encouragement. And guys, I'll be honest with you. Like, this is I'm not boasting or anything. Maybe I am boasting a little bit. I mean, look at these biceps. That was so dumb. What the heck is going on? But this was a really, really important Q&A. This really was. I really felt like what we covered today is really, really helpful for a lot of people. So if you need to go back and revisit this, do it. Like, do it. Just do it. All righty. Okay, guys, I'm going to go ahead and jump off here. Mwah! I love you. You're amazing. Thank you all for being awesome. You're a survivor. You've survived everything that life has ever thrown at you. And regardless of how tough it is right now, you're going to make it. All right? You're going to beat this. With that, Jordan Hardgrave signing out. All right, guys. Bye. We'll see you.